When you're an athlete, the worst thing that can happen to you is getting hurt, and when you get injured while you're on top of the game, it can even end your career, at least for a while. That's exactly what might happen to Aljamain Sterling, and in today's video, we're breaking down exactly what happened, plus what his UFC future looks like now. First off, what exactly happened to him? Everyone's been waiting for the UFC Bantamweight champion to get back and defend his title, but it looks like that won't be happening anytime soon. If you are one of the fans counting on that comeback, you might just be waiting on it a little bit longer. Everyone was fully hyped for UFC 285, where Sterling was supposed to make his title defense against Henry Cejudo, but it looks like March may be not as exciting as we thought, because Sterling has opened up and told everyone that he has a torn bicep, which is going to make any defense a lot harder. He dropped the big reveal on his YouTube channel, where he likely let a lot of fans down with his news, but he didn't stop at the fight with Cejudo. He went on to say that he might not be able to compete at all anytime soon. Sterling added that the training camp would be impossible to do with his bicep injury, mentioning that Cejudo would probably try to take him on with inside leg trips, double legs, and high crotches, and even acknowledged that his opponent is better at wrestling than him. With that kind of pressure, he knows he needs everything to be perfect. He even went on to say that while he had made all those comments about how he could take Cejudo on, he was just at too big of a disadvantage. On top of everything, Henry is smaller than him, which means cutting was going to be an issue too. In the end, he said he didn't think it was realistic for him to be doing the fight. Now, here's what this might mean for him. At the moment, Sterling is set to become one of the most iconic fighters of all time. He's only one win away from having the most bantamweight titles in a row in UFC history, and that fight with Cejudo could put him over the edge. But that doesn't mean he's just going to let go of his plans like that. He admitted that it's been an issue for a while now, and that he hasn't been making too big a deal of it, but that doesn't mean it hasn't been bothering him. He said it's a constant pain, but he's been playing it off this whole time. He went on to say that he barely got any time for it to heal either, since he's been constantly competing the entire time. With all this, he's not making it to the fight in March, and we probably won't see him again until later in April or May. Sterling admitted that he hasn't always been the best about dealing with his injuries. When he used to get them, he'd just convince himself that they weren't as bad as they actually were, and keep on training. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that might make things worse, and now he doesn't want to rush anymore. The time he's taking is also super important for his future career otherwise, since the extra time is going to help him avoid having to get surgery on his bicep. But apart from that, he also understands that Cejudo is going to have a massive advantage, since he's had the time to recover and been able to train while he's at it. Next, here's what might actually happen in the fight. When two big names take each other on, it's not unusual for a couple of other big names to step in and give their predictions on how exactly things are going to go down. That's exactly what happened here, since Corey Sandhagen has a lot to say about the potential fight. It might not be what every fan says, but Sandhagen's money is on Cejudo to win, and he's got the facts to back it up. The first thing he talked about was the obvious size disadvantage, since Cejudo has dropped a ton to be able to compete where he is now, which might make Sterling a tougher opponent. He said that Sterling was definitely bigger than the average for the bantamweight class, and Cejudo wouldn't be able to put on 135 pounds by the time the fight rolled around, which might put him in a tough spot on fight day. Let's not forget that Sterling's been able to use his grappling skills to win against Sandhagen himself, but it looks like that might not work with someone like Cejudo. After all, he's an Olympic gold medalist, and that counts for a lot when it comes to skill. Sandhagen added that Cejudo could definitely stuff all his shots, and he even went so far as to say that it might be a not so exciting fight at all, since everyone already knows what they're in for. At this point, the fight might not happen at all, but if it does, Sandhagen might be onto something. Moving on, here's what another UFC star had to say. With all this talk about the injury and the potential fight, another opinion had to come in, and it came from none other than Sean O'Malley, who offered to fight Cejudo himself if Sterling couldn't do it. Cejudo is making his comeback after 3 years when he last beat Dominic Cruz and gave up his bantamweight title. That's obviously part of the reason for all the hype surrounding the fight, but after the news dropped, everyone's wondering how he's going to make his way back into the octagon. Sean O'Malley was the next man up for a bantamweight title after his win against Peter Yan back in 2022, and now he's got quite a lot to say about the fight. In fact, he put it all out there on his podcast, saying that Sterling's been forced into the title fight just because there was never an official UFC announcement about it. He added that it was definitely not about the money for Aljo, but rather it was about his mindset. He compared the situation to himself, saying that when he's not in the right mindset to go to a training camp, there's nothing that can get him into it. That's why he felt like it was forced and that Sterling was probably enjoying being the champion since he might lose the title soon. The whole thing brought flashbacks to when Cejudo said the fight between him and Sterling was a done deal back in 2022, and even though Sterling openly said at this same event that there was no deal until he signed off on it. Now let's hear from an old player. Matt Brown was once one of the biggest names in the UFC, which means he gets to have his say in everything as well. The hype for the fight was there already since Cejudo's retirement, but Brown doesn't fully believe he's going to be the one to reclaim his title. Brown said that he didn't actually think the fight was ever going to happen, since Cejudo's known for saying he'll fight someone or the other all the time. That means that the whole thing could have been just him talking again, but he also says that if it's happening for real, Cejudo might have an actual shot at some point. He didn't exactly talk down on Sterling's skills, but he also knows that Cejudo's grappling is way too good for him to lose anything at this point. As long as the man is serious about what he's doing, Brown definitely thinks he could win the fight. He added that Cejudo's great at boxing and wrestling, and he doesn't think Sterling could get him down in the octagon. All in all, he said that Cejudo's going to beat him relatively easily, and that he's definitely his pick for the fight if it ever happened. But if Sterling doesn't work out, we're back to the fight against O'Malley. But Brown is even less hopeful for him than he was for Sterling. He said Cejudo could destroy him, so he's definitely got his money on him. At the end of the day, Cejudo is still the man who got to have 2 UFC titles at the same time, since he had the belt for both bantamweight and flyweight before he retired in 2020. Finally, a new kid thinks he's going to be the winner. With all the commentary from much more experienced pros, it's unexpected that a much younger name has something to say about it too, but this one's at a different level of confidence when it comes to this. Raul Rosas Jr. has already set some records of his own. He's the youngest ever UFC fighter and the youngest ever UFC winner. But if things go to plan, he might also become the youngest ever UFC champion, especially after his performances lately. Back in 2022, he managed to win against Jay Perrin in the first round at UFC 282, which was only 2 months after he turned 18. Now he's got his sights set somewhere much higher. The kid is definitely ambitious, and he went so far as to say that he could defeat the reigning champion, who just happens to be Aljamain Sterling. On top of all that, he even said that the fight wouldn't go to the judges, so he's definitely got confidence along with ambition. He says he hasn't taken his pro career slowly at all, and if anyone put him in a fight with Sterling right now, he'd make sure he won it. He was open about the fact that he trained a lot to get where he is right now, and he made his debut so early because he already knows he's ready for all of it. Rosas also added that he wouldn't even aim for the championship if he knew he couldn't do it, but he has full faith that he can. He knows if he fought for the belt now, he'd be able to win it, and he's got everything he needs to win it right away. That's a wrap for this video. Did you see any favorites on the list? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.